Welcome to The Journey of a Singer with me, your host, Nick Pritchard. This is the podcast where we dive into the fascinating and unique journeys of those individuals within the creative industry. In today's episode, I had the pleasure of sitting down with international comedian Tom Lucy. Widely celebrated for his appearances on TV shows on BBC One, Comedy Central and Sky One, Tom is one of the most talked about young comedians. At the age of just 27, Tom has toured internationally with his own headline shows, as well as opening for comedians such as Jack Whitehall, Michael McIntyre and Aziz Ansari. He has performed 3 sell-out runs at the Edinburgh Festival and received prestigious accolades such as the Leicester Mercury Comedian of the Year and the Sun's Best New Comedian. In the podcast, Tom shares his journey from becoming the youngest ever paid comic at the infamous Comedy Store in London to touring worldwide with Jack Whitehall. Tom shares valuable industry insights for upcoming performers, and we discuss how dating his celebrity crush, Gemma Collins, could open the door to even further stardom. So, sit back and enjoy today's podcast with the fantastic Tom Lucy.
I'm excited. I'm in.
We are.
Yesterday I did 3 podcasts.
Bloody hell.
And by the end of the day, I was like, completely run out of things to say.
We picked a good day to get you.
Yeah, so I feel better today. Fresher, excited.
Do you
to be
find
here.
that because you are a comedian,
Yeah.
people have an expectation that their interaction with you has to be fun? You find you've got to give a bit more.
A little, yeah, kind of. I mean, I felt that more when I was younger. Now I don't feel that pressure quite so much. Have you met many other comedians?
I'm not in that world as much.
Yeah.
I'd love to get more into it. I
Yeah.
really would.
It's a fascinating world.
You get some odd characters, don't
You do. But also comedians are never quite what you think they're going to be when you meet them, because when you see them on stage, they're like this heightened, exaggerated version of themselves. And then you meet them in real life and they're normally a lot calmer and quieter and just like more normal.
We saw Whitehall at the O2
Yeah.
most recently, which obviously you
Oh, this too?
Yeah.
Were you there the night I was
We
there?
saw 2. We saw yours and we saw, is it Griff?
Lloyd Griffith.
Lloyd Griffith.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
really? Lloyd and I have done the support for Jack for like 7 years or something. I've done 2 tours before this tour. That was my 3rd one. So yeah, it was great.
That's a bloody good gig.
Yeah, I mean they're big venues.
Yeah.
Like
I
the
couldn't actually
O2.
believe- I was shocked.
Yeah.
When we went there,
Yeah.
I didn't quite expect it to be.
So
There was
big.
that whole talk about, is Jack going to fill it? Or his
Yeah.
dad was kind of saying, look, don't do the O2.
Yeah, yeah.
Which was hilarious.
Yeah.
And it was packed.
Yeah, I know. It's big. It's a big room. And it did 3 nights there.
How many is that?
I think it's like 16,000 a night times 3. So I don't know what the maths is on that. It's like
That's a lot.
40,000 or something.
That's a good exposure. Good
Yeah,
amount
it's
of
great.
exposure.
It's great for me. I mean, it's pretty terrifying. But it's also, they're not, in my opinion, the most fun gigs.
They're not as intimate. Or
Those big arenas.
What is it about that?
Because there's no interaction with the audience, and I quite enjoy chatting to people and like making it feel quite interactive. And in a place that big, you can't do any of that, because if someone shouts something out, you can't hear it. I mean, I did a little bit of chat with the front row, but you have to limit it quite a lot.
Those kind of gigs must be sort of propelling your career quite nicely.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of people, isn't it, to be in front of. So,
and also, it goes without saying, but the support act has to be on the same bandwidth as Jack, for example. So you'd like to think you've got some overlap in audience?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's why it works well with me doing it, because I think our audiences are quite similar. He's way more like energetic and hyper than I am.
Right.
But we're fairly similar in terms of like...
I've never been in a room with so many white middle class people in my life, and I grew up in Guildford, so that's saying something.
I know.
It's
a fairly specific demographic, isn't it? The nice thing about it though is there's a real like age. You get teenagers, and then you get people in their 70s and 80s. There's a real like mix of ages there.
Yeah, that's your diversity.
Even if they are all white and middle class, you do get different ages. Yeah,
that's good to know.
No, it was fun.
There was a good mix of ages.
Yeah,
in that audience.
I didn't realise you were there.
Yeah, we were watching it, and my girlfriend was like, why not see if Tom wants to come on the podcast? And she was like, you've been wanting to get a comic on for ages. You haven't asked any comics.
Am I the first one you've asked?
Yeah.
Great.
And I did drop a message
ask Lloyd?
No, I did. I did drop a message to Lloyd as well.
I'll get Lloyd to do it. Was he acting like he was too big shot for it?
I think he was. Yeah. He's too good for this show. But
I can assure you he's not. So I'll make sure he does it.
But I think it's great because, in a way, what I find really fascinating is you and I are in two different worlds, but there's also some kind of weird overlap there.
Yeah.
We're the same age, I think. Are you 26?
27, yeah.
So I'm 26.
Yeah.
Did you go to Bristol uni?
Yeah, I went to Bristol for a term and then dropped out. I was already gigging, doing comedy at that point. And then around just before Christmas of that first year, met my agent at a gig in London. And then he was like, look, I'll sign you if you want to drop out of university. I'll make sure that you can do this full time. And I was pretty desperate to drop out and do that because stand-up is what I wanted to do. And I was kind of just doing university because I felt like I had to do it. I was only there for about 2 months or something. And I barely went to any lectures because I was always like gigging. And
you were one of those guys that just took off. And
actually, to be fair, the university were very understanding because I was doing drama. So I went to meet the like head of drama at the university and I was like, look, I've met an agent and I'm going to get signed and I want to do stand-up. And she was like, yeah, great, do that. Like, definitely go and do that. Because I think if you're doing drama, it's fairly common that people get breaks and then they drop out. Because it's such a hard industry. If you get a break,
you got
to just like go for it. So yeah, it was kind of fine. And they were nice about it.
That's good. I was just wondering, well, my girlfriend went there. You're the same age as my girlfriend. She went to Bristol. So I thought
we're in the same year?
Yeah, you would have been.
What's her name?
Olivia.
Do you want to say on the podcast?
I can bleep it.
Olivia
Waters.
Olivia. What did she study?
She did law.
Probably weren't in the same circles.
No. But you never know. It was one of those things where I saw that you'd gone to Bristol. And I thought, hang on a minute. And then you're the same. Are you 96?
Yeah, 96. Yeah.
How funny. So you grew up in Guildford? Or?
I grew up in London until I was maybe like 13, 14. Then moved to Guildford until I was 18. Then came back to London.
My parents are in their town.
Are they?
Yeah.
It's a nice place.
Yeah.
It's famously, I've done gigs in Guildford. I've played like G Live before. And it's famously the worst gig in the country.
I saw you got one coming up, haven't you?
I'm doing it again. I can't help myself. I keep going back for more.
You got that home crowd.
Yeah, because it's I do sell quite well in Guildford because I'm from there. And also Guildford crowds are hard. Posh people, rich posh people don't tend to laugh so much.
It's a tough crowd.
I think if you're rich, you don't need to laugh.
No, you don't. You're so happy that your base level of happiness is so high.
The only thing they laugh at is when you call them rich and posh. Yeah. They like that. Or in Guildford, if you slag off Woking, they lose their minds.
Yeah.
So my Guildford shows are mainly just jokes about Woking.
That's smart.
And then calling everyone rich and then that's it.
That's smart. And you can get away with it because you're from Guildford as well.
Yeah, so exactly. Yeah.
No one can say anything.
Local knowledge.
Yeah.
Monday Night Guildford.
Oh, that was a thing.
There'll be some jokes about that.
So did you school in Guildford as well?
Went to Cranley School.
Oh, yeah.
For a bit.
I knew a few blokes there.
And then Hurtwood House, if you know Hurtwood House. It's your kind of musical theatre and singing. And
well, I didn't do musical theatre, but I grew up in Guildford, so I'd know the kind of... And then I went to Exeter Uni.
Oh, yeah.
And then back to London.
Yeah.
But I know Cranley pretty well. I'd imagine we got... In fact, so I've got a mate, I don't know if you know him, he knew your girlfriend.
Oh, yeah.
And I messaged him today.
Here we go.
And he said...
Is this something you can say on the podcast?
I can cut whatever you like.
No, I'm kidding.
But he said, oh, by the way, Nick, I know you're doing this podcast today. Like, maybe don't bring up that I knew his girlfriend because apparently they've broken up fairly recently.
That's true, yeah. That is true.
And I was like, Jesus, I can't bring that up now. I'm fully...
Well, I mean, it was fairly recently, but it was in May.
Yeah.
It's now August.
Okay.
So that's almost 4 months ago.
Is it too soon to be like putting things into making bits on relationships?
No, I've been doing stuff about it.
Yeah.
So I was saying to you earlier, the last couple of weeks I've been going into comedy clubs in London and like doing new material. And some of it is about breakup. As a comedian, you can only really talk about what you're experiencing, what you're going through.
Yeah.
I don't know where you would get your material from otherwise. Whatever's happening in your life is kind of what you end up talking about. So going through something like that, which is obviously, not nice, but then on the flip side, you're like, oh, well, I'll probably get some funny material out of this as well. And then I was terrified that like, oh, what if one of our friends happens to be in the audience? And not that any of it's nasty, but I just, you don't want to see like your profiting off a breakup.
No, but it's a tough one because you're portraying a character almost in some ways. When you're making your jokes for comics, I feel like the jokes are sometimes exaggerations of aspects of the life.
Yeah.
So there'll be little bits in there which are slightly exaggerated to make it slightly more funny.
Yeah, of course.
So then people kind of get, if they know you, you'd like to hope that they can see that you're putting on a bit of a
of course. I mean, I would never, and I don't think any comedian would completely make something up from nothing. But there's a lot of exaggeration. There's a lot of like, you take an idea that's based in something true and then you just blow it up.
Yeah.
So my dad being in the army is true, but the way I talk about him being this like terrifying army officer is like massively exaggerated. He's like,
nice guy.
He's lovely. He's fine, but that's obviously not very funny. So it's always based in truth, but then it's kind of blown up to like make it funnier.
I was listening to one of your podcasts with Jamie and Freddie. This was a while back. You guys had done it like years ago.
Freddie.
Sorry, maybe not Freddie.
Freddie who?
It was you, Jamie, and another guy.
Francis.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, years ago.
Yeah. And I was listening to it in the gym this morning. Like pumping weights, and I just thought I was laughing during the thing. So you kind of ruined the workout this morning,
sorry.
but it was hilarious. It was really funny.
Yeah. Was that all the CCF stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I found.
People liked that CCF.
Yeah.
People still talk to me about that, and that was about 7 years ago.
That was really funny.
Yeah. That's how I met Jamie.
That's it. So what, he just had you on?
I was a guest on that episode. Was my first time on that show, Private Parts.
Yeah.
And then I was like 21, 22 at that time. Met him when I went on as a guest. We got on really well, and then kind of became mates. Slowly started doing it more and more, and now it's like we do it together.
And so you co-host that with him?
Yeah, so there's 2 episodes a week,
Yeah.
and one is a guest, which is just Jamie interviewing whoever the guest is, and the other one is just me and Jamie.
And you guys seem to be properly good mates as
Yeah,
well.
we are good mates, yeah.
So that stemmed from that episode?
That stemmed from that episode.
That's so funny.
So maybe this will turn into a burgeoning...
You never know. We could be...
Podcasts, a lot of people make friends on podcasts now.
They do.
To be fair, I have like met a lot of people who I'm now friends with, who I met doing a podcast with them.
Yeah, same.
It's a good way to meet people.
It is, because you get to know someone's detail.
Yeah,
very
and if you
in-depth.
chat to someone for an hour, you really like feel like you know them at the end of it.
So it goes one way or the other. You kind of either like, I'm never talking to that person again.
yeah.
Maybe we could do something where I get you earwigged in my ear for a show.
Yeah.
And I'm singing, but you give me the lines to say between.
Oh, I see, like a kind of
comedy thing.
A prank show thing.
And so I say, Impractical Jokers.
Yeah.
And I'll just say whatever you want.
Okay,
whatever
great.
you say, I'll say it. And we'll get the camera guys to get behind.
That feels like a good idea for me, a bad idea for you. Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
Perfect.
I was inspired by people like Dean Martin, who started as a comic.
The Rat Pack.
The Rat Pack, yeah. Love the Rat Pack. And Dean Martin would be great at that talk between...
It's quite an old school style, isn't it?
Yeah.
To sing and then in between the songs to do a bit of comedy. I like the comedians who are a bit old school as well. Like, you know, they dress in the suits. I mean, I don't wear a suit on stage. It's the kind of thing I would like to do when I'm a bit older.
Yeah.
When I'm in my like 40s, 50s, I'll maybe become like a suit guy. But I think if I did it now, I'd just look like I was an estate agent.
That's nice though. You can be casual. You can properly dress
because
down.
you have to kind of dress for your personality. My style is very relaxed, but I do like all those older. John Mulaney, American guy, is very like sharp suits, and Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh yeah,
I do love all that.
Yeah,
like old school showbiz kind of.
Yeah,
Vegas.
I'm a fan of that era.
Yeah, I'd like to have a residency in Vegas.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there isn't more of because I don't know many clubs in London that have comedy followed by live music or live music followed by comedy or something.
Yeah.
But I think you mentioned Rogan earlier. He's set up his comedy club in Texas, Austin.
Yeah.
And he says they just have a band playing
to
get everyone kind of...
It's a good idea.
Is there any clubs? Is there anywhere in town?
I don't think there is that do... No. I mean, you said that you sing at Annabelle's.
Yeah, I do.
Do they do...
Yeah. No. I turn up, 90 minutes, done, out.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
I don't even talk in that one. I
just sing.
Song after song, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think there is. Maybe there's a gap in the market there.
Yeah, we could be onto something.
Yeah. Old school kind of club. And everyone smokes inside and...
That guy at the Comedy Store, the one in Covent Garden.
Yeah, or the host.
No, the guy that owns it.
Mark.
I don't know him personally.
Do you mean Top Secret?
Top Secret?
Yeah.
I don't know him personally, but I had a stint as a busker in Covent Garden.
Oh yeah, that's what he used to do.
And he used to be a busker.
Yeah.
And back in the day, those guys would be absolutely minted and no one would realise.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he bought that place, he bought a bunch of other places.
Yeah.
And this one time, I feel like I can say this. I won't mention any name. We've already mentioned his name.
Yeah.
I'll tell you anyway.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to cut that out.
We'll cut that out.
But that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Comedy clubs, I mean, they're run by interesting characters. It's a strange industry, the comedy club world. People who run and own the clubs are fairly, I mean, they're all great characters, but they're fairly...
You must have some wild stories, though.
From clubs?
Well, just like... Because I feel like the music industry, there's weird people, but then comedy just seems to be another level.
Yeah, it does attract odd people, comedy. I think it's a weird thing to want to do, to be a comedian. And I think all comedians are slightly... there's probably something slightly wrong with everyone that they want to do that. There's a lot of people who want to be actors or musicians. That makes a bit more sense. But to want to be a comedian, I think is a slightly...
Is it a calling?
It is a bit. I mean, I know that sounds really cringe and wanky, but like I definitely knew I wanted to do it from a very young age. Like 6 or 7, I can remember being obsessed with Lee Evans and Billy Connolly, and then when I was a bit older, like Michael McIntyre broke through and I was obsessed with him. So yeah, I can remember always being really into it.
Would you ever do any of the TV-based stuff? Not so much the shows, but the actual film-based stuff. Whitehall's kind of done it.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of. He has done. He's done really well.
Yeah, he has. I mean, there's a weird thing where people assume that if you're a comedian, you can act as well. And I don't think that's always true. I mean, some people are great actors, but I don't think it's always true. And to be honest, I'm way more interested in comedy than acting. A lot of my friends are actors because I went to this like drama school, and some people are doing really well. And some people are doing well, and some people are like, it's a tough...
Hit and miss.
Acting is a tough game.
I think people that are only actors, and that's like exactly what they want to do.
Yeah.
So it's you're not very diversified in terms of your risk level.
Yeah.
Because if you don't make it, how else are you making income? Or I
think nowadays you do have to diversify a little bit, and you know, you be an actor, and like, you know, like what you're doing, be a podcaster, be an actor.
Branch out a bit.
Yeah, you do, I think. Yeah. I mean, it's the same with comedians now. You kind of, it's not really enough anymore to just be a stand-up. You have to have podcasts. It's not even just like, it's people at the very top as well. Everyone is having to like do everything now. It's good, I think. It's
fun. I think it's good for our generation because we kind of have like this slight advantage over people that are maybe Brad Pitt's era. Like he got really big, he doesn't have to do that.
No.
And so he never will probably bother spending hours a day doing a podcast.
Brad Pitt's not going to do a podcast, is he?
I mean, we did ask him to come on, but
same as Lloyd Griffith.
Yeah.
I think there's a generation of people who were already massive before this shift happened, like the Michael McIntyres, to an extent the Jack, the Whitehalls, but he's also diversified quite well. But there was a whole generation like Mickey Flanagan. They don't need to do anything. They were already massive. They were already really famous. But for everyone coming up now,
you just have to try everything.
You have to like throw a lot of shit at the wall and see.
And I think people like to see what you're like as a person as well.
That's why podcasts are great, and that's why doing the podcast with Jamie has been so good, because when people listen to it, they really feel like they know you. It's such a personal thing.
And Jamie's so unique in the way that he conducts himself, because he has a very low barrier of
embarrassment.
What comes out. It's like there is no barrier.
I know.
Which makes her very entertaining.
It does. It makes for quite a stressful record as well, because you've no idea what he's going to ask. And I'm always trying to steer the conversation away from like sex and wanking, because he always wants to go into like, when did you first wank, or when some sex question, or prank calls. He's got this new thing about prank calling people. He always wants to call everyone, so I have to sort of steer him away from that. But he's very good at it. He's very, very good at it. He really is.
I think he provides a unique experience, and you feel like when you're listening to that, you feel like you're getting the real deal.
Yeah, and he also, it's like we sit down and we do have like preparation notes before, which I do read. Jamie never reads. So we sit down and Jamie will just like start and just throw something out.
And it won't be anything to do with the notes.
And it'll be nothing to do with the notes, nothing to do with anything we've talked about. And he's amazing at just like keeping the conversation going for an hour. And we've done like so many hours of, like, you'd think you'd run out of things to talk about, but
he doesn't.
No, he's just like, he's like a Duracell bunny. He just like keeps going.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
I met Sophie a couple of times.
Yeah.
Because I ended up doing a couple of episodes on the old MIC.
Oh, did you?
Back like 5
Were
years.
you on that?
5 years ago.
Really? Kept that quiet. Were you singing in the show?
No, this is actually before I was deep on the singing.
Really?
And I was at Exeter. They set me up with this speed dating thing.
Yeah.
And I ended up speed dating with this girl Verity and this girl, her friend who was pure chaos. I forget her name.
Yeah.
And then afterwards they're like, okay, we want to start like introducing you.
I'd love to know the name of that other one.
Oh, Amelia maybe.
Mist.
Absolute chaos.
Amelia Mist.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And then nothing ever stemmed from it. And I don't know if it was quite the thing. I'm glad things ended up the way they did. But I met Sophie twice maybe.
Yeah.
And
she's really nice.
She was lovely.
Yeah, they're all nice people. I mean, they are all nice people. It's a good platform to like get your name out there, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think as long as you have something that's not just I want to be famous. Jamie did great because I think he used it to boost his profile to then do other stuff like Candy Kittens, like these podcasts. For him, that was like a springboard to doing all that other stuff. Personally, I wouldn't do it.
This was 5 years ago before I had any idea what I was doing.
Yeah, I mean, if they'd asked me 5 years ago, I probably would have said yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it now.
No,
but they've done great. And my girlfriend was like, "Oh, you got to listen to this Newlyweds thing," and I was like, "Oh, good God! Like, I don't want to listen to this." We ended up listening to it and got into it. Watched every episode. It was good.
It is good. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah. They're very good at it.
Are they doing a sequel thing? Or are they?
Yeah, they're doing I think they've called it Newlyweds.
Newlyweds.
So it was Nearly Words, and now it's Newlyweds. Yeah. It's very popular.
Yeah.
And they were recording at his wedding. They were doing an episode at the wedding.
Yeah, I listened to that.
So there were loads of like people going around with microphones.
Yeah. Did you go to the wedding?
Yeah, and I was in that episode, the wedding episode.
No way.
And
I have to listen to that.
I can't bring myself to listen to it because I think I was so battered in the interview. And I was doing it with Verity. So they came up to us and they would like ambushed us into an interview. I mean, everybody was so hammered, but yeah, I can't listen back to it. It feels unfair to go and interview someone when they're really drunk at a wedding. I could have said anything.
I think that's what they wanted.
That could be the end of my career. And they would have just pumped that out as content.
I got to say, it really showed a sign of the times when I was listening back to some of the old stuff. Like, because I feel like as a comedian, you guys kind of have free reign. You're in this very special bracket where you can say anything within, like you can joke about anything within reason. I feel like these days it's getting a bit more narrow. Like you got to be a little bit more careful. But
you do have to be careful to an extent. But I also think you kind of can joke about anything as long as it's a good enough joke and it's coming from a good place. I think people want you to joke about anything.
You should be able to joke about.
They don't want you to like, hold back.
Yeah.
I think that's what people want.
But so you haven't found any difference?
Not really. I mean, I'm also not particularly a very I'm not like a Ricky Gervais or a Frankie Boyle type character, so I'm not particularly likely to be cancelled. But I have definitely done some things that, like, there was a TV show 4 years ago called Roast Battle.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I did. Great.
Jimmy Carr's thing, right?
Jimmy Carr hosts it, and then it was like Catherine Ryan and Jonathan Ross were the judges. Yeah. They get two comedians to like roast each other, and then they pick a winner at the end. And I did it with Nigel Ng, who's a Malaysian comedian, who's now doing very well as this character called Uncle Roger.
Yeah,
you know that guy?
Oh yeah, I do.
So that's Nigel Ng. Yeah. So he created that character in the last 2 years, and he's now like so famous all over the world with this character. It's really mad. So we did it. Someone was playing it the other day, and I watched it back, and I was like, "Fucking hell, these jokes!"
How many years ago was that?
It was like 2018.
Okay,
through 5 years ago. But I was like, man, these jokes do not hold up. If I'm gonna get cancelled for anything, it's gonna be this. But then also that's the point of the show, is like they want you to really push the boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, comedians hold a really pivotal part of society because you are that extremity of what you can say. Yeah. And people can laugh about it. And even back to like the days of when you had the court jester, who was said to be one of the most powerful people in the court, because you have that influence over. The court jester had influence over the king's decision making. And you can come at it at kind of an angle where you have this badge of, I can say this because I'm a comedian.
I think that's true. Yeah, I do think you still have to think about what you're saying, and I definitely think about everything a lot more now than I did. I mean, we all do think about our material a lot more than 5 years ago. Everyone's gonna now go back and watch that roast battle.
I'm gonna go find it
a few times with like my grandparents. Watching or listening to things I've done that have been slightly, more explicit, like
more graphic.
Yeah, and
is that probably when you're with Jamie? I'd imagine that.
Yeah, some of the Jamie stuff is fairly lowbrow.
Yeah, I had a music video which is pretty raunchy.
It
was with a female dancer that I worked with in Dubai.
Okay,
and we were all like half naked.
Okay, and is it like that Lil Nas X video?
Which one is that?
Is it where he's like, I can't remember what it's called.
It's kind of like a 50 Shades of Grey type thing.
Oh, okay.
And
your video?
Yeah,
or someone else's?
It was my music video.
Oh, it's your video.
So she's the dancer.
So it was your idea to do it.
I'm singing, what do you want to do for this video? Because we've got to do something with it.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I know this girl that she'll do this nice dance. And I'll sit there with oiled up with my shirt off.
Oh my God. God, it sounds very explicit.
Yeah, I mean it's nothing. It's not like anything over a PG-12.
Okay, fine, all right.
But it certainly was not one for the grandparents.
Yeah,
and that was one of those occasions where it was getting shown without being vetted, and people were like,
"Yeah,
what?"
I know, you do have to be careful.
What's coming up for you? Obviously I've seen that you've got this tour.
Yeah, I'm doing this tour. I'm on tour from October to December. And then I think the plan is that will carry on next year. But that's exciting. There's a big show at the Bloomsbury Theatre, which is being filmed for like a special, which is great. And then this podcast with Jamie just rolls on. And then I'm about to start another podcast. I'm doing another podcast with Spencer Matthews.
Oh, nice.
You know, the Joanne and Vogue therapist ghosted me.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that?
You're doing like a
male version. It's like a male version of that is the idea. I think that's going to come out in September.
You're all over this podcasting, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really great way of building an audience.
Yeah.
Particularly as a comedian. And also TV is in a weird place right now. There's not a lot of shows to go on that make a big difference to your career. Like you can go on shows, but not a lot of people are watching them. It's not going to have a massive impact on your career. But a podcast that does really well genuinely will, get people to come to see you live. And
for sure. And I think even with politicians now,
they're
like doing like a podcasting tour.
I would argue that having a big podcast now is bigger than having a big TV show. It's great. I think it's really great. Yeah.
And the way you can just do it yourself as well.
Yeah, there's no one you don't have to ask anyone to do it. The gatekeepers of TV, they don't really exist anymore because you can just do it yourself.
They're losing their power.
Kind of, yeah. I think it's good that the power has gone back into artists, for want of a better word.
And people will know. There's no producer sort of saying you can't say this, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like Made in Chelsea, where they come and whisper in your ear, you've got to say this.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they'll capture the moment that they wanted and not the 10-minute lead up to that.
Yeah, and you're always whenever you do anything on TV, you're always kind of at the mercy of the editors. Because it may go really well on the night, but you've no idea what bits they're going to cut out or leave in. Yeah, none of them have had as bigger impact as doing this podcast, or even like the tour I did with Jack.
Yeah,
had a much bigger impact than any of the TV shows that I've done. Because I just think the viewing figures are just down for all of those shows.
Well, I mean, who watches TV? I mean, there's also so many subscriptions that you have to get everything. Yeah, Netflix, Disney.
I think if a show really pops off, like White Lotus or something, a show that really becomes massive, people are going to watch that. But generally speaking, if you're on a show that isn't massively hyped, figures are down. I don't want to sound too negative.
No, it's not really negative, is it? It's positive for our generation.
I think so.
Creatives coming up, that you've got more control over your destiny.
I think you just have to embrace the way that it's all changing and not fight it.
It suits you quite well because you're eloquent at speaking. You've got to find the things that work for you, because some people, comedians that are great on stage, and then like you said earlier, they can shy away a bit.
Yeah.
And then a podcast really isn't for them, because people get to know their true personality and they're like, this person's dead, and it doesn't really go well. But
I know that is true. I mean, without naming any names, there are some comedians who are like that, and you chat to them in real life and they're really shy. Really, they won't make eye contact with you. They barely say anything, and then they go on stage and they're this like completely different person. I think that's fine. That's sort of just the way some people are. But yeah, probably podcast is not going to be their thing. And like I say, you meet people, you can like make contacts. You know, like I met Jamie through doing that show, and he's gone on to become like a really pivotal part of my life, really. My career and my life. So I think it's
is that where you met Spencer as well, through Jamie?
Yeah, Spencer I met more recently, maybe in the last like 2 or 3 years. He's hilarious. I mean, he's like a deeply strange man, but really funny, very intense.
I'm looking forward to it.
I think it's funny. And I think I'm hoping it's going to be good, because our dynamic is very different. Me and Jamie are a little more similar. So we get on very well, but we're quite similar, whereas me and Spencer are very different. But I think that might be more interesting to listen to. Sometimes it can be a bit like in-jokey, and but I don't. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe people like to feel like they're part of it. I don't know.
I would say so. People like that feeling like they're sitting there with you.
Yeah,
they're one of the guys,
one of the lads.
Yeah. Talking about their first wank with Jamie Lane.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the highlight of my week.
Yeah, I know.
Dubai, Saudi,
cool.
some all over the
place.
place.
Doing what kind of tours?
Depends on the show. For example, in October, which is my next tour, will be in Scotland and Northern England as part of a James Bond show.
Oh, cool.
In the Middle East, we did this show called The History of Jazz.
Yeah.
And it was me and a female singer. We had the big band.
How did you find that? Because I've gigged out there.
I quite like it.
Yeah.
Because it feels like new territory. It feels like they're seeing something for the first time they haven't really seen before. The show we did, I think it was the first ever show. It was for their government out there, the Ministry of Culture in Saudi. So everyone was like,
Christ,
don't do anything wrong. You don't want to lose any limbs. And it was the first time ever they had these female dancers in skirts.
Wow.
And that was interesting. After the show, I still had my microphone. For some reason, I don't know why, I'd put it in my... Because we were going off and on. We were taking turns to do songs. So we were off and on constantly. And I'd put my microphone in my jacket. And then I'd come off stage and I was like, oh, my mic's still in the jacket. I'll go put it back on. Show was done. Went out, put it on. And these 2 ladies came up to say, oh, congrats. We really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And then the security just swept him away. I was like, you can't speak to him. And all very different.
Yeah.
Saudi's very different to Dubai.
Yeah,
Dubai's
I've not done Saudi, but I've done Dubai a couple of times.
Where did you play out there?
The first time I went, I did I think it's called it was called the World Trade Center.
Oh yeah.
Which is like a big, like, I opened for Kevin Bridges in Dubai in that place, which was really fun. And then I went back and did the Opera House with as part of like a lineup of British comedians.
How did you find the Opera House over there?
It's like an amazing venue, isn't it?
It's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. But I don't know. It is fun to do it, but I find the crowds a bit odd. The expat crowds are a bit odd, and also I find it a bit restrictive. I mean, as a comedian, they stop you from talking about loads of things.
Really?
So they tell you can't talk about sex, politics. You can't make any jokes about Dubai. You're doing it, but you're kind of performing at like 50%. So it's not quite as fun, but it's fun to go. I mean, they look after you very well.
Yeah, I got stuck. I got warped into it because they just kept like upping the package, and I ended up doing. I did a show called it was called The Sound of Bond, and it was at the Opera House, and it was with the Dubai Opera House. It was a big band. It was amazing. Loved it. And in the audience was one of the like Sheikh representatives or something. Yeah. So I ended up doing shows for them, like their private dudes.
Oh my God.
And then did the New Year's Eve party for them.
Oh my God. So you're really entrenched in the...
And in Ras Al Khaimah, which is one of the other Emirates, which, you know, they have the Dubai, Abu Dhabi, there's 7 of them. Yeah. One of them's called Ras Al Khaimah, and I went down there.
God, you're really into it.
Then they offered me 3 months at this place on the Palm, like a residency there.
Wow.
And it was like 5-star hotel, unlimited food.
For 3 months.
Good package. And they were like, we'll reconsider after 3 months. And the team that came over, there were 12 dancers.
Did you say yes?
Yeah, I did it.
You did it?
I did it. This was last year.
Wow. Oh, you've spent loads of time there then.
I think accumulatively maybe 8 months.
Yeah, wow.
I'm going back next week just to do a show and
cool.
pop in and out. But the nice thing about that is they don't expect you to do... I guess with comedy, you've got a set time. Like your set length is what, maybe 40 minutes? How long does it go on for?
I think maybe like I did like 30 minutes maybe when I went over there.
And here in the UK, if I'm doing a show, it's like 3:45 minutes, quite long.
Yeah.
Quite a long show. Over there...
3 times 45.
Yeah, and you take a break in between.
That is long.
So it's a lot for the voice.
Yeah.
Whereas over there, sometimes they want you to do 3 songs and then just go.
Yeah.
So I could do that show and then other shows as well. So I wasn't fully relying on that residency. I was doing other bits. But that's why I like it, because you can do 3 songs for the same price over there as you can over here for 3 hours. Would you do any more out there in Dubai? Would you go back?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty open to... I would kind of gig anywhere, really. I like... One of the things I like about doing comedy is that you get to travel and go to... So I'm pretty open to... I've done quite a lot of gigs abroad. I've gigged like a fair amount around Europe, the Middle East. I haven't done Australia yet. I would love to do Australia.
What do you reckon is the best crowd? Like what countries are known for being a good...
Do you know what? America was pretty great.
Yeah.
It was pretty... I mean, it gets a lot of stick, America, but the crowds that we had were really great. Because they just... It's just a different vibe to the UK, where when you walk out on stage in America, they're immediately up for it and they're immediately like, this is going to be amazing. And you feel that energy before you've even got to the microphone. You feel that energy, which makes you better, because you're like, wow, this is great. They already love me. And then the show's better because you're better. Comedy is so dependent on the audience. If the audience is great, the comedian is so much better. And if the audience is terrible, it really makes the comedian a lot worse. We feed so much off the audience. But in England, like you a lot of the time you go on stage and you feel...
Do you think we're the worst for that kind of thing?
I think it depends where you are in England. I think London is hard.
Yeah.
Because there's so much going on in London that people have a slight arrogance of like, okay, well, there's probably 6 things I could have done tonight and I've chosen to do this. So this better be good. So there's a little bit of that energy. But if you travel to like, you know, more obscure places around the country, they're a lot better. They're a lot more grateful that you're there. The O2, for example, that you came to, as much as it was great, it was by far like on the tour, the hardest gig.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time in London, people arrive late because of the tubes and they're just like, oh, everyone's always late in London. They leave early because they're trying to beat the traffic.
It's so rude.
So like rude. London is kind of the worst gig of the tour. We had some great nights in like Cardiff and Manchester, but London was probably the hardest one.
I feel like that's a general rule. The further out of London you get, the better people become.
Yeah.
And then...
yeah, it's true. Yeah. It is true. Yeah. But I would like to try and get like a 3-month window where I can go and live in... probably New York or LA. Yeah. They're probably the only 2 places I could do it. But go and live there for like 3 months and gig and try and like do it for a few months.
That's what I'm literally thinking the same thing.
You kind of have to go and like rebuild your reputation.
Start from scratch.
In LA, for example. And I think it would take like a few months for all the clubs to know you and the comedians and producers and the agents and whatever, but you could do it. And my friend, I don't know if you've seen Ted Lasso.
His name rings a bell.
It's Jason Sudeikis football, you know, the Richmond AFC football show. And there's a guy on it called Brett Goldstein, who's a comedian, who's one of the main characters in that show. And I've known him for a long time, and he's always wanted to work in America and used to just go over there and audition and like gig and just like be there. A lot of it is just being there.
Yeah.
And then eventually a couple of years ago he got a part on this show which is massive, and he's now like won an Emmy and
amazing.
Is like really killing it. But it's taken him like 10 years. I do think a lot of it is just like putting the time in and being there.
Could be good.
I think so. I might try and do it next year. We'll see. Yeah. Depends how busy next year is. But if I can do it, I would like to. Yeah. I'm keen to know who your friend is who knew my...
Charlie Jordan. I don't know if you know.
Oh yeah.
Do you know Charlie?
I met him.
He said he met you a couple of times.
Yeah, I met him at a couple of things.
He's nice.
He's really nice.
He's one of my best mates.
Yeah, he's great.
From uni.
Yeah. I met him at like a couple of barbecues or something. Yeah, he was really nice.
He's a really good guy.
Yeah.
And his girlfriend Sophie, or his fiancée Sophie, she went to GHS.
Right.
I know he didn't go to Cranley. He went to one near to Cranley.
Did he?
GHS.
Charlie Jordan. Yeah. He's
a
really
good guy. His dad's an actor. His dad was famous.
I think we might have talked about that. I think when I met him, we talked about that. It was a couple of years ago that I met him, but I think we did talk about that.
He said you're a really nice guy.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Didn't slag me off.
He didn't. No, he didn't.
That's
he didn't
good.
slag you off. Like Charlie, there's not a bad bone in his body, and I think you can just tell with people like that.
My experience has been of meeting people in the industry. The more famous someone is, that I find that the really big people at the top of the industry are always lovely,
and the people in between,
and it's the people who are a bit frustrated about where they are in the middle that can be the worst. But everyone I've met that's like up there at the top have all been really nice.
Yeah, they have. And sometimes I don't know whether they're trained to be like that. And some people are more genuine than others. TV series that I was filming at the moment, the way the scene was set, I was stuck next to Danny Dyer. Yeah. And inevitably you want to get chatting. I don't really have much in common with Danny Dyer. He's like, yeah, you're right, mate. Like,
I'd struggle to find something to talk about with Danny Dyer.
And I sat there and I kind of looked at him and I was like, my girlfriend's parents live in Essex, and he's like, "Oh, great, mate! That's amazing. That's amazing."
That's probably what I would have said.
But he was genuinely really nice. Yeah. And then I spoke a bit with Emily as well, and she was really lovely. Yeah. But I feel like she's at a level where probably her whole life, she's had people coming up to her. Yeah. And you've had to train in a way which is like, if that one person doesn't have a good experience, they're going to go away and be like, "Oh, that person was terrible." Yeah. In this series, it's 80s themed, so everybody's in wigs. Yeah. So I'm in this wig and a hat and makeup and this weird clothing. I spent a decent amount of time chatting to these actors. Yeah. And then the Wimbledon final the other week, Emily Attack came through. Yeah. And I was like, "Hey, Emily." She clearly was like, "Who the fuck is that?"
I think it must be weird, like, if you are someone who is so, not that Emily isn't very famous, but if you were somebody who's like unbelievably famous, I don't know who you, like a Will Smith or someone like that. Yeah. It must be a weird existence because you know that every time you meet anyone, for you, it's just like a, you know, fleeting moment, but for this person they're going to remember that for the rest of their life, and that's a story they're going to tell. It must be like a strange pressure to just be lovely all the time.
There's a famous baseball player, I can't remember, I'm not into baseball, I forget his name. There was a guy he was playing with and he was like, "Dude, like, you've won every single championship, you've hit the most points and whatever, blah 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 blah." He's like, "Why do you keep giving it 110%?" Yeah. And the guy said to him, "Someone in that crowd that's seeing me here for the first time." And for them, it's the very first time they're seeing this in action. So you've got to go out there. Yeah. And I'm sure you do the same. But
someone said that to me once about gigs. That sometimes you have gigs where you can't really be bothered. Yeah. Or you're on stage and you're like, "Oh, it's a bit of a dead audience. You know, I'm not really into this." But yeah, you're right. There'll be a lot of people in that crowd who've never seen you before, and they might never see you again. So if your name ever comes up, their only experience of you is going to be that night. Problem is that, like, you know, as much as people like to say, "Oh, I saw Tom Lucy and he was great," what they like to say even more is, "Oh, I saw him and he was fucking terrible." That's a much more interesting story. So people are desperate to tell that story. It's the same when people meet famous people. They're desperate for you to be an arsehole so that they can go around saying, "Oh, you know, I met that guy and he was a real arsehole."
I don't know if they use this phrase in the comedy industry, but all the time in the music industry, you maybe you're going out for a show and someone will say, "You never know who's in the audience." Like, or it could be a big producer or something. Yeah. I'd say probably 50% of what I do is private clients. Yeah. And most of that comes from these shows, which sometimes can be shit audience. Yeah. But then at the end someone goes, "Oh, can you do like this amazing thing in Monaco or something?"
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, I've had experiences like that as well, where amazing things have come out the back of like really random. Yeah. You know, like I've done a gig at the Comedy Store and there just so happens to be someone in the audience who is the son of a Russian billionaire. And he's like, "Will you come and perform at my wedding?" And I'm like, "Okay, great." And then, you end up gigging at a Russian billionaire's wedding. You get breaks in places that you don't expect to get breaks.
You never know as well. Like, also, it's quite up and down.
Yeah.
There can be times where you're like, okay, when's the next wave coming?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you can be riding this wave and be like,
yeah,
feeling amazing.
Yeah, that was one of the interesting things about spending so much time with Jack on that tour, who's someone who's like at the top of the game right now. And he won't mind me saying, but like, he's not walking around going, fucking hell, my life is amazing. I'm playing the O2 tonight. I'm in a movie with The Rock and Emily Blunt. He's kind of like exactly the same as us, being like, oh, I really want to do this thing. Oh, I auditioned for that part. I didn't get it. I really wanted to get it.
Yeah.
You know, we're doing 3 nights at the O2. You know, they wanted to do 4, but we can't do. You know, it's like those worries and those like anxieties don't really ever go away, and it's quite refreshing and nice to realize that no matter how high you get up the ladder, you're never going to get to a place where you're like, right, I've done it. I'm really happy. I'm not worried about anything. This is it. It's that the stress just gets more.
You're totally right. Everyone's still a human.
Yeah, and it's more stressful to be like, fucking hell, there's 16,000 people here and they've come to see me. Like, fucking, this better be good.
Yeah,
that is a lot of stress.
How was Jack on the O2 part of the tour?
He's amazing. He's like always super calm and professional, and I've never seen him get too flustered by. I mean, he gets frustrated by things, but I've never seen him get super flustered by anything.
The package he brings is so entertaining, and the way that his parents are so intertwined with it.
Yeah, yeah.
People love that. They absolutely love that. And the night that I don't know if this was the case on all the nights, but the nights we were there, his parents were in the audience, and they introduced them by doing the halfway kiss cam.
Yeah.
And then the final one.
I'm happy that you said that, because that was actually my idea.
Was
that
it?
Kiss cam thing.
That's amazing.
I went to a game, American football game or something, and they had the kiss cam. And then since then I was like, oh, that'd be a really funny thing to do in the interval of a comedy show. And I mentioned it to Jack, and he was like, oh, that's really funny. And then I said, oh, and what you could do is end it with your parents. So like, do 10 minutes of kiss cam and then make the last one your mum and dad.
That's so
and
smart.
Everyone will go crazy.
Yeah, they did.
And then every night, because I hate to break it to you, that was a thing that happened every night.
Yeah.
So but every night it got a massive laugh, massive reaction, and I was always very smug whenever it would get that reaction, because me and Jack would always be waiting at the side, because it was right before the show started again, so we'd be waiting.
Did Hillary's his mother's name?
Yeah.
Did she kiss the guy next to her?
Yeah.
Every night?
Yeah.
Was it a different bloke each night?
I assume so, yeah. But it was yeah, so I was always very smugly standing at the side listening to like the massive reaction.
That's a great idea.
Like, you're welcome. Yeah, I mean, I got no money for that. That was purely, you can have that for free.
Bit commission. I bet Michael got a few pounds to be in the audience.
Exactly, yeah.
Your trajectory's been really nice. I listened to that podcast, which was from 2018.
Yeah.
And obviously we had the COVID thing, which I'd imagine was like a flat line for a lot of comics.
Yeah.
And then coming back from that, and you're back at it, and then it just seems like you're going onwards and upwards.
Yeah. I mean, it's been I'm 27. I've been doing it since I was about 17, 18. So I've been in it like 10 years. And it's been a nice, like, gradual. I haven't really had a moment of like sudden, like shoot overnight success type thing.
Yeah.
It's just been like a very gradual kind of rise with a bit of a COVID flatline, which has been nice. I'm kind of happy that it's been like that, because I think it's more sustainable if it's like that. I think if you're one of those people who suddenly gets a massive break and you're really young, it's great, but it's also hard to maintain that for the next 30 years or whatever.
And there's probably an element of imposter syndrome, because I feel like you've earned every step of the way.
I can remember being 21, 22 and being really frustrated that I wasn't doing more TV and more bigger things. And now I look back on it and I'm like, thank God I wasn't doing that, because I wasn't good enough. If I had done it, I would have done it and then probably never done anything again, because that would have been my moment and then it's gone. So I think it's good to you know, like have that gradual rise. Comedy, I guess music is the same, but definitely comedy, you do have to like put the time in. You can't fake stand up. You can either do it or you can't do it, and you're going to get found out quite quickly. And it takes
when
time.
You're putting it on.
Yeah, it takes time to learn it. Luckily, it kind of started to go well relatively quickly.
Weren't you the youngest paid comic?
Yeah. So that was like a big thing.
Was that the Comedy Store?
The Comedy Store. I think I was 18. And the guy who held the previous record was Jack, who I think was 19. So I beat him by 1 year. It was kind of all heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like that up until COVID, really. It was like a very...
Did you ever question it at that point? Were there any points in COVID where you thought, oh, fuck this?
Yeah, definitely. And not even just in COVID. Like, I've definitely had moments where I'm like, fuck, this is really hard. Or like, I'm sure you've had experiences where you've had something that has been like taken away from you, like a job that you really
was meant to happen. And
a job that was promised to you, and then it gets taken away. You kind of have to like develop a thick skin and a resilience to that kind of thing, because it's going to happen a lot, and it's never going to stop happening. And comedy's hard because it's like we expect to see a new thing every time we come back.
Yeah, I definitely find that when I'm learning a new song, it has that new excitement, and that's where I was trying to think, like, maybe for you guys, when you learn a new bit, you have that same feeling.
Yeah, it's very exciting when you have a new thing that is working. I would say it's like one of the best feelings is like when you have a new idea and then you take it on stage and it works, and you're like, fuck, I've got a new bit and I'm really excited about it. And then it makes your whole performance better, because you're like, I can't wait to do that new bit about whatever.
Do you know when there's going to be a bit that's going to land?
No, not really. No. I mean, it's weird that, because what I'll do is I'll just kind of go through my life and live my life. And if something funny happens, or if I think of something funny, I'll write it on the notes of my phone.
Is there anything on there now you can share?
I don't think there is. I mean, I'd be nervous to even say it on a podcast. There was a story that I was trying to make work about a neighbour of mine who I saw, who I've never met before, but I saw in the window getting sucked off, basically.
Oh, those are the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it when that happens.
So I saw it happening from my flat over the road. I saw it in the window. And then basically what happened was they finished, and then I made eye contact with them over the road, and it looked like I'd been watching them for the whole thing.
Which you had.
Which I had. And masturbating. And then it's been this weird thing of like trying to avoid bumping into them in the street, because we live over the road from each other, so I'm probably at some point going to bump into them. So that, I thought, I just wrote that down as like an idea. I could tell that story, I could flesh that out
endless
into like a big thing about seeing them.
It's just for research purposes, you could probably even invite him over for dinner.
I could just run it by him. So there's always things happening like that, where you're just like, oh, that's funny, I'll write that down. And then you just have to go and try it. But when something works, it's a real buzz.
Was there any particular topics that you have that tend to land more than others, that you're like, okay, I'll hone into this?
Do you know what? The only thing that I've noticed is that the things that work best is when you're being really honest. I think an audience can tell when you're either lying or not being fully honest about something. The times I've tried to do a bit that's not fully true, they can always kind of tell. That's the only thing I've noticed.
And some people just have a way of, some people are just funny people.
Yeah.
Like they have a way of telling you a story.
Yeah.
The way they pronounce it, or the way, like Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
The way which he like orchestrates it over, and the way he like acts it or embodies it. He could say anything.
Yeah.
And people would just find it funny, because he's a funny guy.
Yeah.
As well.
Funny bones. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that just aren't funny.
Yeah.
And could never be comedians.
One of those things that you can't really teach.
No.
Comedy.
No.
There are like comedy courses. Yeah, and I'm always a bit wary of them.
This dude who we did a feature film together. It was a comedy feature film. At the end of it, I was chatting to him. I was like, I want to start incorporating some more comedy into my set. He's like, oh, there's all these classes. There's the Bill Murray theatre.
Yeah.
And I just thought, what's that going to teach me?
Yeah.
How's that going to actually work? People can tell when you're not a natural.
Yeah.
You've got to have a bit of spark.
I mean, you can learn, but you have to have that natural. You have to have something there initially. And then you can nurture it and make it better.
Sure.
But there's something that anyone who performs, I think there's some kind of like desire, there's like a need to do it. And if you don't have that need, I don't think it's worth you getting involved.
Well, even if you do, you'd probably drop out quite quick.
Yeah, you would, because you'd immediately be like, fuck, this is really hard, and I don't care that much.
And I think it gets to a point where you look around and you go, oh, that person's been here 5 years. Like, oh, they must be serious about it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise... And they must actually be doing something right. Because otherwise, how are they still in the business? And
like there's sometimes people will say to me like, oh, I'm thinking about doing stand-up. And I just think like it's got to be one of those things that you just like need that you just can't help doing. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but someone like Michael McIntyre, if he wasn't a comedian, I don't know what else he would be doing.
Maybe be a teacher.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he could do
some kind of teacher that is constantly getting.
He could do
reprimanded,
other stuff. I'm sure, but like it's with the best comedians, you kind of can't imagine them doing anything else.
Yeah, and then stand up itself is like a totally different ballgame to just being a comedian, because you've got these characters that are comedians on game shows and TV film, and they do well at that. But then actually doing a stand-up is a totally different kettle of fish. Like Paddy McGuinness and who's his mate?
Peter Kay.
Like Peter Kay is actually like proper good stand-up.
Yeah, one of the best.
And McGuinness is like great with. They're great as a duo on TV, and he does really well on TV. But his stand-up isn't quite as good as. I was on Take Me Out.
No, you were really? No way.
So I met him on there.
You were one of the boys on it.
I was one of the boys.
Fucking hell, you've done loads of stuff.
I won't.
Made in Chelsea, Take Me Out.
The Made in Chelsea was like very like they were like,
I mean, this is gonna. It's a credit, doesn't it?
This is gonna start you off somewhere, and it just never happened.
So how did you get scouted for Take Me Out?
Take Me Out was one of the first things I did.
That's hilarious.
And that was like ages ago.
Is that how you met your girlfriend? Imagine if you were still with the girl from Take Me Out.
Yeah, I did date her.
You did date her?
Yeah, but it was
for how long?
It was for like. I wanted to long things out for the the story, because they did a follow up. And
how old were you at that time? You must have been quite young.
20, 21, yeah.
Yeah. That was a big show.
Yeah. Well, that episode was the most watched ever.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why.
Did you get a lot of attention when that came out?
Yeah, a lot.
What song did you come down the lift to?
Call Me Maybe.
Yeah. Can I find this on YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Series 10, episode 1. That's why it was a big deal, because it was their like decade thing.
Yeah.
But
How was Paddy?
He was great. Yeah. Really cool. Really cool guy.
Yeah.
Really genuine, I think.
Yeah.
Great. A bit of a legend.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
And at the time I was...
So did you go to Fernando's?
Yeah, I went to Fernando's. got the love at first light. The problem was, when you come down, my first thoughts when I came down was, I was like, well, where are the good looking girls? Okay, what are we working with here? And I was like, okay, there's a couple here, there's a couple there. And then I eyed in on one girl in particular. And what you don't see is the bottom half of them, because they're standing behind the podium.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like guessing 50% of like, how big are the thighs, or like, what are we dealing with here? And they were all lovely.
Yeah.
But she walked out and she was wearing these massive heels, and turns out she was like 4'11".
Yeah.
Which I didn't have a problem with, but just unexpected.
Very
unexpected. So then when we were...
You actually dated for a bit?
Yeah, we did. She came down to my uni halls. Part of the problem was I was so young, and that show caters to kind of like more older women.
Yeah.
And so I was the youngest.
You were at uni at the time?
Yeah.
God, you must have been like a hero at uni.
It was hit and miss. It was, I mean, people found it hilarious. There was like a whole viewing party for the uni.
Oh my God.
It was hilarious. And my whole thing at the time was I was a rugby player.
Yeah.
And so I was massive, like this bulky rugby player.
Yeah.
Coming down this lift, which is like shaking. You know the love lift? Where it's
yeah.
The lift is like bouncing like this, and I'm like, it's gonna break.
That's funny. So were all your videos about playing rugby? And
yeah, it was all
like you chucking a ball in the park and stuff.
Yeah, it was all very cliche.
And was it Paddy saying like, who's gonna kick his ball over?
Yeah.
Which of you girls
Paddy
wants to convert his ball?
Did he say? He said something about me teabagging a girl on the show.
Nice.
One of those ones, because they did this whole bit about me. So with reality TV, a lot of it's fabricated as well.
Yeah.
So they were like, okay, here's the deal. They turned up to my uni house. Yeah. And they're like, okay, we're going to film your VT. And then they're like, oh, so now we're going to do the bit where you make the tea naked. And I was like, oh, they didn't tell you that. So they made this whole thing of like,
you did it.
Yeah.
Sure.
And there wasn't much to hide, so they small bit of fruit and it's fine. and
that's funny. That's a clip that's going to be around forever, isn't it?
Well,
I mean, it's funny. It's why not?
It is funny. When I did the jazz stuff, it's very like the opposite. It's very prim and proper. Like I'll never walk onto the stage with anything less than like nice tailored suit sort of thing. And all the clients that I'm dealing with are these higher end clients who are very prim and proper. And I've learned to just embrace the whole thing. And just be me as myself. Like
it's funny.
I can cater to those clients and I can also have a good laugh with it as well. But for a long time I hid it. And because the Tab did a whole article on it and they like whatever. And for a long time, and because I didn't really look the same, because I was so beefy, like my face was even beefy, I could get away with like, there's no history of it, nothing like that. And now I don't mind chatting about it because it was a good laugh.
Fine.
But
I mean, and that's one of the not dangers, but like if you start very young, like we both did,
pigeonhole yourself somewhere.
But it also means that there's going to be things that you've done when you're younger that are gonna be around forever. I mean, there's like TV appearances that I did when I was 19, 20 that I would look back on and cringe and be like, oh God, those jokes are not very good. And that's just the downside of starting young.
I think the nice thing about what you do is you can always joke about it. Like you can be like, oh, and that time when I was 20 and like
I'm kind of hoping a positive spin on it is to be like, oh, people would watch it and go, oh, he's improved a lot, isn't he? That would be a positive way of looking at it, rather than being like, fucking hell, he used to be terrible.
But people like that as well. They like seeing where you come from. Seeing actually where you started. And being like, oh, if he could do that, maybe I could.
It's just a shame that those clips exist forever. But
I've done some so funny things. Like when you're first out there, for me, I didn't really know what I was doing until I got an agent and a manager. I was like, I didn't really know what jobs to take on, what not to take on. And I thought, okay, if I'm going to do this singing thing, I need some press shots. So I did a bit of modelling. And there was this one modelling gig where I remember going through it and I was like, this is not going to age well. The weirdest outfits, that point in time, I thought, you got to be more specific about the jobs you choose.
There's some photos of me from back in the day, which are so awful. Like photo shoots where I got persuaded by the photographer to like wear a weird outfit or hold a dog or like...
I thought you were going to say something else, but yeah.
That as well. But it just, when you're that young, you just don't know. Like if someone tried now, I would be a lot more, if I was doing a photo shoot and there was something I didn't want to do, I would say no. And I wouldn't worry about saying no. But back then I was like, oh, I guess I have to do what they say.
Hold the dog. You gotta.
Or if they're like, oh, it'd be really funny because you're young, is if we put you on like a tricycle and you're like, oh, the kid comedian on a tricycle.
Great idea.
So it's all that kind of bollocks. But when you're young, you're like, oh, I guess he knows what he's doing. I guess so.
I think luckily people kind of get it. And there is an element of what you do in your late teens, early 20s. People give you a benefit of the doubt.
I think so.
They're trying to find their feet.
I think so. I think it's fine. I think when you're that age, people assume that you're going to make mistakes. It's nice to be out the other side of it and have a bit more control. And also not worry about saying no to things. I think you get to an age where you're like, oh, it's okay to say no to if I don't want to do something, I can say no and it's fine.
Well, I'm still definitely navigating through and like trying to find the feet in the industry and and I think that's what your 20s is about.
Definitely.
Try something, see what works, see what isn't working. Do you have like a focal point? Do you have something in mind where you're looking like a more long-term vision of where you want to get to?
Not specifically. I've never really had like a plan. I think it's really hard to have a plan in the kind of industry that we're in because it's so unpredictable. But it's really just to keep doing what I'm doing, but bigger. And I'd like to just make the tours bigger.
Can you get bigger audiences though? I mean, what other stadiums that would do?
Well, like for example, it would be the goal would be to be headlining rather than supporting. That would be the difference.
But it's crazy to know that you've probably done some of the biggest audience sizes that it's possible to get for comedy shows.
I mean the O2 I think is probably the biggest. I don't know where else you would do that was bigger than that. When I did that, I was thinking, wow, this would be amazing if you were playing this with your own show. Wouldn't that be amazing? But I just would like to keep going, really. I feel very lucky to have had what I've had, and I'm also aware that I'm still young and started really young, so it's just trying to like pace yourself and have longevity. And my agent is very good at always talking about like pacing yourself, and because I naturally can get quite impatient, and I'm I just want to do everything now.
Yeah.
But if actually there's something to be said for like doing things at the right time, not burning out by the age of 30. I don't want to get to 30 and have done everything and be burnt out.
Who's the kind of you're probably the youngest guy like killing it right now. Who else is there in your age category?
I mean, there's not that. I mean, there are some great people, but it's not as flooded as the music industry. There's no 21-year-old comedian who's like Dave Chappelle. You know, Dave Chappelle's like in his late 40s. Pete Davidson is probably
true, yeah, but he's probably, what is he, 20 or 30, early
maybe
30s?
30.
Yeah,
I think he's probably the best example of like a young, very, very famous comedian.
Yeah.
But
that's because he shagged the right people.
Yeah, that's what I've got to start doing.
Yeah,
that's really the next stage.
That's part
for
of
me.
it. I think
that's really where we're going now. Is
pick your next
into. I'm trying to make myself the British Pete Davidson.
Yeah. So who's the British Kim Kardashian? Who would you go for?
That's a good question.
Who's the kind of equivalent?
Katie Price?
Yeah, you could get a bit.
She's
of
kind of our Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, I think she's
single. I
thought she was seeing someone.
Well, I think she's always looking for options.
Yeah, I think she's
never tied down, really, is she?
A couple of options to go for.
So that could be good.
Yeah,
Katie Price.
Who else is up there in that category of like Kim K?
Who else is there? Gemma Collins.
Gemma Collins, you could actually probably get in with her. You probably got mutuals.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, you've probably got a few.
Probably would be good, wouldn't it? Would really help my career.
I thought she was with I haven't followed her too much.
James Argent.
Yeah, are they still together?
No, I don't think they are anymore.
Okay.
He's a singer.
Yeah, so he does the whole
like
crooner thing.
Yeah.
He's not great. He's okay.
I haven't seen him. I suspect he might be like the Paddy McGuinness of the crooning world.
Yeah. I mean, he's used his name from what he's done before to try and transfer into the.
Yeah.
I like him. I think he's a good guy.
That's kind of going to be my next stage.
Your next move is
my next move is going to be
strategic.
Something sex based. Yeah, for sure.
Is there anyone you've kind of got an eye on? Or?
I mean, I'm open to suggestions.
Yeah.
Maybe we could put a link in this podcast to like my email or something. Or we could set up an email that's purely for
just purely a sex hotline.
Just some kind of hotline.
Goes directly to
some kind of
inbox.
Yeah, a PO box.
Yeah. Well, you have your Instagram and all that stuff on here.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You never know. There's some good girls out there, I'm sure.
There's some great girls out there. Now you're sounding like a Take Me Out contestant. You're gonna watch. What do I search? Just Nick.
I actually don't know how you'd find
Take Me Out.
Occasionally they replay it on TV.
And you get loads of messages.
And then it's mainly gay guys.
Sure.
Yeah. I think gay guys
that could also be a good move for me. Next.
Yeah.
Sort of curveball.
Avid supporters.
Yeah.
Really avid supporters.
You never know.
I probably get... I definitely get more messages from gay guys. I don't get any messages from girls. Girls are not interested in me at all.
Interesting.
I think because they see I've got a girlfriend on my page.
Do you like flaunt her a lot on your page?
Not particularly. No. We're quite conservative in that way.
Yeah.
But gay guys don't care about that.
No, they'll come in.
I remember one time I was out. This was at uni, and I was basically half asleep on this night out at a place called Timepiece in Exeter.
Sure.
And there was
shout out Timepiece.
Yeah, people will know it.
They'll know.
It's one of those. One of those like Monday Night Guildford pop things.
Yeah.
And I had this gay guy on my right, this gay guy on my left, and I'm kind of like asleep.
Sounds like one of your music videos.
Yeah, that's where I got the inspiration from. And the one on the left goes to the guy on my right. He's like, he wants it, he just doesn't know it yet.
Oh God!
And I was suddenly like awake.
That's terrifying.
Suddenly awake.
Yeah.
And it just made me think like, great supporters. I've always had. Good
it made
support.
You made you just sort of like keep your wits about you.
Yeah.
Which is a good way to be in Timepiece.
Yeah. But I think that also that build, they're quite into rugby guys.
They are, aren't they?
Yeah.
You would be what would you be? There's words, aren't there, for the different kind of cubs and bears and otters.
Okay.
I don't know what you would be.
I'm not familiar with the terminology, but
someone tried to explain it to me the other day.
I feel like a bear sounds cool.
Bear. I think you'd be a bear.
Maybe I was a bear. Now I feel like
a bear is like a big muscly guy. So you probably would be a bear.
I've slimmed down a bit now.
So now you'd be a cub.
Probably a little cub.
Yeah. Well, maybe if they want to use my hotline to also get to you.
All I'm saying is great supporters.
Stick an email in the inbox.
Yeah.
We'll get back to you.
But you could, I mean, you could seriously be quite strategic about your next, your next partnership, because you could like do what Pete Davison did.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you're
great. Okay, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. I think if we've learned anything from today,
and it's all gonna come back to this chat.
Yeah. And this is where it started.
Yeah. Okay. Great. All right. I'm gonna have a think about that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna take away from this is. Who can I strategically sleep with?
But you should start like searching up kind of like people that are single at the moment, and just slowly like.
So I just Google search who's single right now.
Yeah, do a bit of stalking.
Quite a bleak Google search.
Do a bit of stalking.
Yeah,
I think.
Okay, great, perfect.
And find out where their roots are.
Thanks, I really appreciate this help.
Bump into them.
This is great.
Make it seem like an accident.
Yeah.
Suddenly have the same interests.
Yeah, I'll just start turning up at Gemma Collins' PA appearances.
No, she's a good one. She's a good catch. Not for me. I think personality.
She's more my style.
We would clash, but
yeah, she's more my style.
I feel like you could handle.
Yeah, I could handle Gemma. The GC.
Well, legend. I mean, I love seeing these clips where it's like what represents Britain.
Yeah.
Gemma Collins is always on there.
Yeah, she's a national treasure.
Yeah.
She's a national treasure.
You'd basically be in line to a national treasure.
Yeah, I'd by proxy become a national treasure.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
You get all these Getty photos of you two at like
Getty images,
red carpet events, and you in your suit.
Yeah, perfect.
Amazing.
I'm in. Perfect. Sign me up.
Yeah. We've been going an hour and 40. I feel like that's gone so quick.
How long have we recorded?
An hour and 45.
Fuck.
That's
okay. I probably actually.
You probably got to shoot.
Yeah.
I feel like that went way quicker.
That's crazy. That was a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's some good stuff in there.
Anything else you want to drop in? But like any.
Not really. I mean, the tour is really the main thing.
Yeah.
So the tour, all the dates are on my website, tomlucy.com. Starts in October.
I'm going to come, by the way. I'll come to the G Live one because
come to G Live.
I can double up with the parents and
great. Come to that. Yeah, and we'll go. It's not on a Monday night. But
if you need a plant, like if you need someone to strategically heckle something, that goes in line with something about Gemma Collins.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's unfortunately it's not on a Monday. Otherwise, we could have just gone straight down to casino But
that's right.
We can still do that
anyway. Is it November?
When is that? I think it's in November. Yeah.
So I'll come down to that.
Yeah, they're all up on the website.
And then there's one at London, isn't there?
Bloomsbury Theatre, London, which is quite a big one, and it's going to be filmed. So yeah, come to that one. And then there's going to be more next year. But for now, it's the autumn ones.
Nice. Good luck. I'm pumped for you. You're doing so well, and I want to see you smash it.
Thanks for having me on.
It's lovely to meet you as well.
Yeah, lovely to meet you too.
We had a nice little bond.
I'll come back and I'll be a recurring.
Yeah, do it.
Every once a year we'll have an annual catch up.
Yeah. See how
I'll come back next year with Gemma Collins. And we'll both sit here.
I'd love that.
Yeah.
You can sit on our lap.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. We're going to call it there.
Thanks, man.
Nice to meet you.